So that's kind of my story. That's kind of where I've been with tech. Now what I'd like to do is give you a few things that you can take home to hopefully make your life a little bit more, sane on the home front. The first big one is this: we're going to develop a family tech strategy. I think it's really important to just sit down, and the handout will be great. You'll have these questions you can go through. Go through these questions and write this stuff down. Have this conversation with your spouse. These questions, what kind of devices can the child use? Where? For how long? When do they lose their screen time? Articulate this stuff. Communicate it to your kids. Model it for your kids. The strategy side of this is huge. Filter your home Wi-Fi. This is a biggie. Now, why do I need to filter? It's a pain in the neck. I get it. It is a pain in the neck. You turn on the filter. Next time you want to go buy a pair of shoes, it filters up the site. Right? It's a pain. I'm sorry. It's just a reality these days. We have to do this. It's a duty, I think. I won't drop a lot of shoulds on you, but I think this is one of them. I think we absolutely have to do this. If we're going to have Wi-Fi in our house, we've got to filter it. Couple of reasons why. One is to protect our kids' innocence. You've got to protect them from the simple search where they go. The most egregious example was whitehouse.com. Whitehouse.com used to be a porn site. There was another one, escapes me right now, another really egregious one. Bad men are seeking out your children and doing it in a way to where it's very manipulative. Innocent word searches, one letter wrong, stuff pops up. Filters are going to help protect against that. You've got to protect your children's innocence. The other side of it, I think, is just creating a safe place for your children to, for your other kids to use the internet. It is a tool. It can be used. But you've got to give them a way to use it and where they can grow and develop in there and do it in a safe manner, in a safe way. Circle is a great one. I use Circle. It's basically, it comes now. That's the Netgear router there. It comes on the router. So you just install the router, you plug it into your wall, and it's there. It's on your network. There's less setup involved than there used to be. Circle, one thing I also like about it is it's got these profiles you can set up. So each person can have a profile. With general use devices in the house, like the device my 8-year-old is on, I use the whitelist approach. Shut it all out. Everything, out. Shut it all down. They can't get in it. Then when they need it, you add it back in. So they use, what's the typing one? There's a typing one they use. Okay, we shut it all out. They want to use the typing one. Boom. Chesskid.com. All right, that's fine. They can play chess online. You can add it back in. That's a whitelist approach. I think with general use devices across that are used by any kid, that's a very safe, effective way to give them that safe environment to work in. With the profiles, then when your kids get a little older and they're maybe in their teenage years and you've a sense that their self-control is there and you're going to let them have a device with the browser on it, then you can set up a profile for them where the filtering level is just a little bit different. Make sure, though, that those devices, anything that you do that's not using the whitelist approach, make sure that the kids, the younger ones, don't have access to that stuff, right? You've got to find a way to keep that out of the kids' hands, because if you have a younger kid that gets on Google, even with safe search images, and runs that Star Wars memes search, that can be very problematic. This is an example of what a profile looks like within. I hope this doesn't look too complicated. It's really not. You've got the ability to filter on their time. You've got the ability to filter. You can set it to where it goes dark on them. You can individualize specific apps you can shut down. Very, very user-intuitive interface. I like it. This is an example of how a white page works. So with the whitelist, whitelist, you shut it all down, you add it back in. It's really not, the adding back in is not super complicated. It's something that I think everybody can do. All right, so that's the second big step, filtering the Wi-Fi. The third step, the parental controls. I've used a lot of these. There's a bunch of different options out there. They're all good. use one of them. I don't want to advocate. The one I use is Covenant Eyes. I think it's great. Covenant Eyes has two mechanisms that are very helpful. It filters, and then it also has a screen time accountability. Now you're probably saying, well, wait a second, if the Wi-Fi is filtered, why do I need a filter on the device? Good question, because that device leaves the house. Or, if your kid is up to trouble, they can try to connect to another, Wi-Fi around, etc. By installing the parental controls on the device, you've then essentially, you're giving your kid a safe device to work with even outside the home. The Covenant Eyes, it's got the filtering side of it, which is nice because it turns on things like Google's safe search. It turns on YouTube's restricted mode automatically. It filters out a lot of the bad stuff. That's the nice side of the filtering. The screen accountability is also very nice because we're starting to use technology against our kids. This is AI, it's artificial technology. It's running, what it's doing, you install it on the device, it's taking pictures of how your kids are using the device, and then it's using algorithms to analyze that, and then it sends you an alert. Now I know you're gonna say, I don't wanna have to read another email alert, but I really think we have to, that's just our duty at this point. You can set them up weekly, every 3 days, every day if you want. There's these alerts that come in and they'll tell you, it's like I analogize that it's like a tripwire. If it goes off, if you get the alert, oh, there's something going on. And this has been helpful in my own experience. We've received a number of these where, oh wait, there's an issue there. We need to address that. So yeah, that's Covenant Eyes. It's a very good software. Apple now, to their credit, has built screen time into the iPhone. So every iPhone now comes with screen time, but it's not turned on. Because remember, the tech companies, this is not on their radar, it's not what they're thinking about. In a lot of ways, they're being forced now. I don't know if you pay attention to the news, there's a lot of scrutiny on the tech companies for just for creating these things without enough protection for kids. So now they're starting to catch up, and screen time is a great example of this. Screen time is a very effective tool. You can see it's got charts, like you can see how much time your kid has used it. You can see how much time they've used various apps. You can set downtime on it. You can limit the amount of time that they would use certain apps. Very, very, very effective tool. Very simple, very intuitive. You could see it on the parent's phone. It's nice. So like I could go on right now. I'm not going to do this to my poor children, but I could go on. I could tell you like what apps they looked at or what, how much their time use has been, et cetera. And I think it's important to have conversations with them about that stuff, right? The communication is huge. If you see your kid's graph is up, talk to them about that. Because that's back to that point of intentionality and that point of, hey, I noticed your time is up. And I have seen this with my kids to where once that's the end game. The end game is getting them wanting to live with intentionality with tech. And those conversations are very important, but you need to be using these tools to make those conversations happen. Okay, so this is just a couple of examples. You can see like when you turn on the iPhone, okay, now they can install any app they want. They can have explicit music. They can have unrestricted web content. That's the way it comes out of the box. So when you turn on screen time, you've got to go through each of these things and configure it. Again, if you're going to give them a smartphone, this is the cost of doing business. It's a lot of work. I'm going to be frank, it's a lot of work, but we've got to do this as parents if we're going to give our kids these devices. All right, and don't forget about the old devices. So like the old iPhone or the old iPad you had, it is a known thing that kids know that, okay, my parent gave me this, it's got all these filters on it, but I can find the old iPhone that nobody's paying attention to anymore and have that in my room. Just, be smart as parents, find the old devices and put them somewhere, get rid of them. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is the monitoring the social media and the email accounts. This is Bark. If you're not using Bark, I would highly recommend it. It's a fantastic piece of software. I love it. It's AI, so basically you log on to the site. If your kid has email, you go in there and you put his email account information in there, and then Bark is constantly analyzing while you sleep the emails, and it's sending you alerts. Things like, these are examples of alerts. It's really small, so you can't see it. I apologize, but it's things like depression. Things like cyberbullying. This Bark is, like I mentioned earlier, has led to some of these conversations with my kids, like, oh, so-and-so in your class, he seems like a little bit of a jerk, or other issues you can identify this way. Bark is out there. It's a fantastic tool, and I would definitely encourage you to use it. Okay, so now I would like to pass out the handout that we have, and then what we're going to do is just kind of walk you through sort of the handout, because I think you'll find it helpful. While they're getting the handouts out, if you take one thing away from this presentation, this is the site, Protect Young Eyes. They make it easy on us, and you'll see that the handout references this repeatedly. It is a fantastic site. How to set up the iPhone for kids, right? Whether or not to give your kids Snapchat. All these things we've talked about tonight, Protect Young Eyes is out there, and they're making it very, very easy on parents to go to this site. And a great example is that's the app explanation part of Protect Young Eyes. It has an area where they go through each app and they tell you these are the gotchas about the app, these are the good things, these are the bad things, these are the risks. It's very, very well done. So go there. It's a great resource. Okay, so the first page of the handout is the most important page, articulating the why. This is, again, it's all about the heart. It's all about the why. You've got to be able to tell your child why you're doing these things. I don't think it really helps them to not give them a phone until they go to college and not tell them why. Or likewise, to shut down all this, shut down all the stuff and give them a dumb phone and not explain why. As you walk through, you can see we've identified some of the things you can talk to them about. Number 2, the when. That is dealing. The when is more talking about the issues of self-control, which we talked about. Very, very important. When can they have social media? Separate question. Page 3 is the family rules. I think it's just important to sit down, and these are just considerations, these are just ideas. We're not saying you have to do this, but these are some of the things you need to think about in this age we're living through. Time, place, duration of use, consequences, all that kind of stuff. I think you really will find it helpful to just sit down and pen and paper, write this stuff out. Okay, some guidelines is on the next page. Page 4 has guidelines, some basic things, like make sure internet's filtered, parental controls are installed, etc. And then below that, the best tools. So how am I going to accomplish these guidelines? That's some of the tools. Put a big star by Protect Young Eyes. That's the money site. Okay, and the last couple pages are how to do this at home. So I think if you walk through these steps, you really will make a huge progress. I've talked to people and they tell me that a little bit goes a long way with this stuff. So don't get overwhelmed by, all that's out there, all the dangers, all the problems. Take those few steps, do that stuff. Go home and do a few of these things. Make this stuff a reality, and you will make your kids' life safer, and you'll put them on a better path to success. Lastly, pages 7 and beyond, that's the resources section. So we have a couple of things out there in terms of books and letters and websites and all of that. And then page 9, this is like a tech inventory. I think this is an important thing to do. You want to articulate those questions we talked about, but you also just want to do a survey of what devices you have in your house. And don't forget about things like the Xbox or the smart TV, or the Kindle that has a browser on it. Just take the time, sit down, 20 minutes. All right, go room by room. We've got this device, etc. And then you'll see there's like a separate process where, okay, who accesses this? Is it a general device accessed by everybody, or is it a teen device? Is it a parent device? Who's accessing this device? What level of filtering do I need to put on that device? And then the 2 last questions, do I need to install the parental controls, and do I need to install the accountability software? So the parental controls would be things like the screen time with Apple, turning on screen time. And accountability is more things like Covenant to where it's running in the background. It's the AI that is tracking it in the background. So that is the what do they call it? The technology inventory. Okay, so I hope you've taken, from all of this, that this is not the model of effective parenting, right? This looks like, the special agents that I work with, right? This is their life. This is not the model. I don't want you to take that home. Freedom is the model. Teaching your kids to use their freedom well. That is the end game. They are going to become adults. My son turns 18 next week. It's scary. Bark, I noticed, is turning off their monitoring of my son's stuff because he's turning 18. That happens. So we've got to teach them to live in freedom and to use these devices in a way that I think is going to allow them to flourish in the long run. Lastly, I know a lot of people are overwhelmed by this. I'm not technical. I don't know how to do this. What do I do? I get it. I was blessed with being technical, but I also know that there are people out there. You have friends that are technical. Pick up the phone, call them, get help if you need it. It is totally worth it. Don't just throw in the towel. I'm not technical. I don't know how to do this. It's totally worth it. Get people to help you out. A few steps really go a long way. And lastly, the spiritual side. It's just do things like turn to Our Lady in prayer, right? Turn to Mary. Pray that she may help you and your family be pure, live with intentionality with your use of technology, live with integrity in all that you do. Turn to Mary. So I hope you found this helpful, and thank you.